Hello, everyone. This is Petteri Laihonen from the University of Jyväskylä. I'm going to briefly explain what citizen science projects in schools could look like. So what is citizen science? Citizen science is an umbrella term that describes a variety of ways in which the public can participate in science or research. The main characteristics that all citizen science projects share are that citizens are actively involved in research in partnership or collaboration with scientists. So it takes both citizens and researchers. And there is a genuine outcome that, such as new knowledge or policy change. Typically, it is not about just learning or about just doing some practical project, but it's both, and there has to be an outcome for both parties, both the researchers and the citizens, which is meaningful for both of them. So citizen scientists and researchers carry out research together. That's what citizen science is. And there are different levels of participation. Typically, citizen science has been about crowdsourcing, or when citizens have sent in different data for researchers. A typical case can be that people are sending information about something which takes so much resources that the researchers don't have the resources. For instance, in Finland, there are more than 100,000 lakes, and if we were to check how many lakes have swans at this moment, then it would have to be citizens who go and register the number of swans in, or whether there are swans in their home lake nearby. And so they would send this data to researchers, and that is typically crowdsourcing. In our case, in schools, it makes more sense to do what is called extreme citizen science, where all parts of research are done together, from problem definition to dissemination, that is publishing or disseminating the results. So why is it important to carry out citizen science projects in humanities and social sciences, such as languages in our case? Doing research is kind of a basic citizen skill of the future. So in the future, it's very important to understand how research is carried out and what are the phases of research, how can we trust research, and how can we do research ourselves. In humanities, we have a strong tradition in critical thinking and qualitative research. That is, we in the beginning of studies in the humanities at universities, for instance, the first year already we have to have our own interpretations of texts typically, or of phenomena, whereas in natural sciences, for instance in mathematics, you are typically in the postdoctoral phase when you know what you don't know and when you can form an opinion about things. Typically, we in humanities do research on opinions, beliefs, and attitudes, which are very important in society. And we do this in order to raise awareness and debunk negative stereotypes, which are also very typical in our society today. And research is very important in education also, because it should be an important part of teaching and learning. Because without research-based development, let's say in teaching, everyone teaches as their teachers taught 20, 30 years ago, which might have been excellent at that time, but changes have taken place in different matters in technology and in society in between. So there should be some change also in the ways we, for instance, teach. And so without research, there typically is little reflection on what parts of the traditions should be taken further and what should be developed and how. What do researchers gain from citizen science projects? For instance, most importantly, we get insider knowledge and insights on, in this case, linguistic diversity in schools. So in this example, which is a result of a citizen science project in Finland, the pupils at the school studied language use in different social media platforms and games, and there for what they do in those games and what they do with the different languages, such as Among Us, TikTok, or Snapchat, or Instagram, which was very enlightening, and it was the only way to do research together with the teenagers to find out what there is going on for the researchers as well. So that is, you should use citizen science in research when that's the best or the only way you can study certain issues, and typically there are issues which require insider knowledge from the citizens. And in this case, we have been carrying out pilots in schools. So they are small scale preliminary studies, miniature projects, because we are still developing this model of how to do citizen science project at schools. And so there is no need, or typically we do not look for the entire span of a typical research project. Rather, we try to do our best in this short time, and so far the results have been very promising. So what kind of people have been involved? So there are typically, there has to be a principal investigator, responsible person who is responsible for the whole research, designing it, training the others about responsible for data management, research ethics, and scientific publishing. And then there are typically other researchers who help the leading researcher, and they also train and they mentor the tutors typically, and also student or pupil researchers. And they are contribute to this scientific publishing together with the leading researcher. And then there are typical mediating people, such as university students or research assistants, who also train the students at school, and they tutor the students, for instance, in small groups, and they participate in dissemination from their perspective. And then student researchers, the citizen scientists, they do the research in all of the phases of research, and they also participate in dissemination after the projects, the pilot projects have been carried out. And teachers typically participate in integrating, most importantly, in integrating these projects into school curriculum and school work, so that they are part of the school work and they fit what topics they should be discussing at school in any case. And they also facilitate the work at school so that it fits the school schedules and other things, so that it can be integrated in many ways into the school day and work and content. And they also can participate in dissemination and other parts of the research if they so wish. About the research ethics in citizen science, so there is a need for a new kind of research ethics. Traditional research ethics is about a contract between citizen scientists and participants, and it's a kind of one-way contract that the participants give data, and then the researchers give results, and it's a one-time event when the data is given over. And in this case, there's a need for ethics 2.1, which is more about how we cooperate and how we work together in projects with citizens. So there is more attention and greater transparency between actors, and citizens get more control over their own data. So in this case, the pupils will always have the copyright and the ownership of the data they produce in these projects. And there is continuous cooperation also in dissemination and in disseminating the results and also on what is going to happen to the data. Typically, the data is stored by the researchers. So in the planning phase, there are typically a lot of meetings between researchers and head teachers and then teachers. And then we discuss the school curriculum and how the research topics, so the research topics, as we're going to discuss, should fit three aims. One is to fit the research themes that the researchers are investigating, and then they should fit the school curriculum, and the third thing is the pupils' interests. So from these three things, it should be so there should be openness in the research team, and then in this case, for instance, in our previous research, the school curriculum had these themes about gender in school and bullying and hate speech at school, and what kind of questions can we form from these themes. And they also were picked so that they fit the researchers' interest in this project. And then according to the pupils' choice, they could discuss these, but then there were more general, like language diversity in general was one theme that they could discuss or do a project on. So the final choice was with the pupils. But of course, since they were language classes at school, they couldn't choose something from physics or others. So there are always some constraints, of course, according to the subject or the researcher's interests and the school curriculum of the subject. So when we get to the school and meet the pupils, then the first thing after we have had brief introductions and got to know each other is typically choosing the topic. And there these three things come together: the research team, general by the researchers, and then the school curriculum and the interests of the students. So and typically then we can ask the students questions that what would you like to know? Is something bothering you? Are there things that you would like to change or address at school? And so then we try to formulate a research question which would be interesting for all the three parties, the researchers, the school curriculum, and the students. And once we have formulated a research theme and research question, then we are thinking that what kind of data you need to answer this research question. For instance, do you want to do interviews, or do you want to do photography? So for instance, if it's about what kind of, let's say, languages you can see in this school, then perhaps photography is the data. If it's about social media, then it's pretty tricky and difficult to record social media because of copyright, ethical, and other issues. So it might be better to observe and write down. Or when it's about what do people do every day, then it's perhaps better to observe. People take notes of their lives. And so there are many ways and many kind of data, and everything when it serves a purpose is very good. But of course, there are things that you have to consider, like you cannot record everything, and there are always ethical constraints, how and what and where, and then, but there are other ways then to go around these. And so these all can be discussed in the group. And then also you can think about how to store the data, and the best way to store, we have learned, is always digitally. So then it stays and it can be shared later for analysis and other means. And then it's at once we have it in a secure place, and it can be used. And then of course we learn how to use these data storage and data management technologies. And then once we have the data, we have gathered the data that we thought that could answer our question. We have carried out the interviews. We have stored them in some digital storage place, and then we'll organize our data. We do an inventory. What do we have a lot? What is there not so much, or what is rare in the data? Then we can discuss the data in the group. What surprised you? What was as expected? And why did you get that kind of data? If you would have used another method, let's say instead of interviews, you would have observed people's behavior, would you have got different data? And what kind of answer, finally, the most important thing is what kind of answer does your data give to your research question? So in this way, we have the classical research design. So first we formulate the research question, then we think what kind of data can answer that question, and then we analyze it, and then we come with answer to our research question. And then finally, we will present our results. What did we learn? What are the new things that we found out? What kind of new knowledge did we bring about? And then we can repeat our research question and how it was answered. And also we consider, how did the research go? Did it go as expected? How reliable or certain are your results? Was your data large enough so that we can say that it's generalizable? How reliable answers you got? Was it up to that you asked a question like that, and that's why you got these answers? And did your data enable you to answer the research question? That's an important question. And so you can also think about how you could do your next research, what questions were not answered. And then you think about the most suitable form of your presentation. Is it a PowerPoint, a poster, a video, or a cartoon? So here you can be very creative as well. And then after you have presented your results, let's say at the school, typically what we do is we evaluate how did this citizen science project at school go? How did people, let's say, operate at school? So typically also schools have kind of things that they want to know, how this thing went on. did everybody do their share, and how? So typically this is a self-evaluation. So here the pupils can tell that how did they feel about group work and about the research project. And then it's good to have these open-ended answers here. We, for instance, asked that what did you like? What was best in this project, and what did you like? How did you like it, and how will you rate the project? And people have rated it pretty well. And then we so far have given also a certificate about the skills, the transferable skills that you have practiced. So, for instance, there's a lot of digital skills, and there are a lot of interactional skills, because if you do the research in group, and research skills. Now you know what a research question means. Now you know how data can be gathered, analyzed, and what is how do we analyze data, and how to do a presentation, and how to disseminate the results. So perhaps you can organize, the pupils can organize a conference in the end of the project themselves. And so then you can also add it to this certificate about the transferable skills that you have practiced during the project. So when you look for your first job, then you can have this certificate that you have practiced these skills, and perhaps it will be better than to have no previous work experience. And so the dissemination events have been like local ones at the schools, and then after that these international ones. Well, the first projects were during the COVID time when everything was online. So then we had all these online events, and then finally we got to present the results from Finland, also in Poland, in Opole, which is our partner university there, and there were partner schools who had done similar projects, and so there we were in one of the partner schools with our teenager pupils, and the teachers from that school meeting the local school pupils and local teachers and researchers. Thank you.